come
Paul
full
also
circle.
says that we
start in this garden, and by the end of the book of Revelation, you're back in the garden.
Well, everything
It's like it's come full circle. Hold on, I got to do Jimmy first. Go ahead. I'll go back.
Talking about sacrifices. One of the reasons one of my mom's best friends has big issues with Christianity and all that is sacrificing an animal. She's a big animal lover. So, what do you say about any of that?
Oh, man.
Shabbat 24 hours.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing you have to say is that it's clearly in the text commanded by God. I mean, by the way, the first shedding of blood that's not human is God himself shedding blood to place coverings on Adam and Hawa to create clothing. After they sin, their eyes are opened, and it says that God is the one who then clothes them in skins. So, where does God get the skins? Okay. Then you get to, by the time we get to Leviticus chapters 1 to 7, even before that, they know that they are to sacrifice. Noah is offering sacrifices once he gets off the ark. So by the time we get to Leviticus 7, you clearly have God saying, you know why he does this? Because he wanted us to see that an innocent life had to suffer for the guilty. This innocent animal who has done nothing wrong, what do? You do shmikah. You put your hands on this animal, and you metaphorically transmit your guilt to this animal by saying, I deserve to die for my sins, but this animal is taking my place metaphorically. Not taking your place ultimately, but it's taking your place in the metaphor. An innocent will have to die for the guilty. And it's simply a command from God. And so, okay, I mean, if I will say it this way. Had you been a Jesus Christ believer in the first century, Jewish or non-Jewish, you would have had no difficulty thinking in terms of going to the temple and offering a sacrifice. That would have been part and parcel of how you worship. It is so far from how we worship. We don't even think of that way. Although I find it fascinating, we're okay if we can go to the market and it's all pre-packaged for us. As long as it's in a package that's cellophane and it's all nice and tidy, we're okay with it.
Yeah, the animal got killed.
Or wear our nice leather shoes.
Or we wear our nice leather shoes, we throw a leather football, we play with leather gloves, we have all kinds of stuff that comes from animal hides or from animal insides. And we're like, it's fine. Because you know why? We don't see it. By the time we get to it, it's a nice finished product. It was all nice and tidy.
In the first century, they wouldn't have sacrificed.
And in first century, they're not sacrificing pets. You're sacrificing from the flock. These are large animals that are truly a sacrifice. I mean, you have rams, you have lambs, you have goats, you have cows. These are good-sized animals.
And I think if you did make a sin and you committed something that had to go and kill an animal, think of how often less you would want to go and do that. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to that. Like, okay, I'm still going to lose my hands. I'm not going to steal. So I know there's some that we are commanded to do on a regular basis. Like if you look at how many you have to do on a year, it's quite a bit. But then you have to add to it if you do more. So I think it adds a weight to it that will make you change your actions and your mentality. And if you're a true animal lover, then it's like, I need to think about my actions.
Yeah. Yeah, but God is the one who gives this as the picture. So it's, and go ahead.
So, what I'd like to say too is that people nowadays, they look at animals like pets and everything, and they care more about animals than they care about people, because they love animals. Don't kill a baby animal, but I'm for abortion. Yeah. So they have misplaced their priorities in that sense. And I know I used to have a farm, and I would kill chickens and turkeys and stuff and cook them. And when you take a life, it doesn't matter if it's whatever type of life, if it's a bird or whatever, it's still, you're still taking something away, So I mean, I got into the habit of like thanking the animal, thanking God for the life of the animal, because really you're doing this in order to survive,
Mhm.
you know? So it brings a connection between life and death that we don't have anymore because we live in our nice, clean little tract home and or whatever, you know, and we don't go out and we don't kill the animals ourselves, we don't get our hands bloody, and it's very different when you have to do it yourself, and then, you know, you're really thankful that,
Yeah.
you know, it takes a lot of work to prep an animal.
In this country, the purchase of meat or poultry
Yeah.
is very, very pristine. We just go to the store, it's already prepackaged, it's already, you know, all there for us. So we don't see the process.
It takes about 3 hours.
Tell you what, you guys
prepare
wanna,
turkey from-
you wanna, I worked in a butcher shop go in Bible college. And I had to go to a number of different other butcher shops to get stuff for ours. You go to these rendering plants, and after a while you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I don't want to eat meat again. I mean, when you see the process, you see it from I saw it out in the courtyard, and you see it come into the plant, and you go through the whole process. It's a pretty gruesome process.
And they try to do it humane and everything.
Right,
and
but I mean,
sometimes it
it's-
doesn't always happen that way.
But there's still a lot of blood.
Yes,
Yeah,
there
right.
is.
One behind you, then I'll come to you. Go ahead,
I
Mary.
think this comes up a lot. I think the bigger picture is that we have a creator God who set this whole thing in motion to have a theocracy, and he is in control. And everything that he created was created for him for some purpose, and that we are not to elevate ourselves about, well, why would God do that? Because, you know, eventually we'll be able to talk to him directly. But so we have to think about people were sacrificed as well. I mean, if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, God smote you. And so
There's that word smoke again.
no, smoke.
Smoked. I know smoke.
It's
I know
on your
smoke, I
phone.
know.
I said smoke.
Oh, I thought you said smoked.
No, he said, well, actually, they happen to be who were smoked.
Yeah.
No, I said smoking.
So the bigger issue is we're serving our creator God.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
You know,
Yeah.
In that mentality, what do you say to someone?
Yeah.
Right.
It's tough.
And also that doesn't mean that we shouldn't.
So once you get that, once you understand that's how you ask to be loved and served, then you understand it. But I would agree, someone outside of that who doesn't have faith, that's a hard concept to.
Right.
Right. All I'm saying is this, and it's hard for us to understand that, is that
That's what I was saying. All the offerings.
There's like 700
We're getting,
animals, there's quite a bit.
there's a number. By the way, there's two mega sacrifices. I mentioned them earlier. The first one is Numbers chapter 6 with the Nazirite vow. Anybody who enters a Nazirite vow has to bring at the end of it a mega sacrifice.
Look at Sukkot.
Sukkot is huge. Sukkot, I was going to get into that. That was my next one. Sukkot requires that you, for each of those days, that you do a number, and it's a lot.
But then also those sacrifices were eaten by the priests.
Yes, so that's why I want to add this.
and by the family.
Yes, they were eaten. So here's when I add two things to this. Number one, I personally don't, and I think I can make a case for this from the Torah. I don't think one should ever hunt for just the sake of the hunt and leave the animal. That's messed
Oh,
up.
that's wrong.
Just killing an animal just to kill the animal, that's messed up. Also, the Torah, this one clearly you can make the case for. The Torah says whatever you do when you kill the animal, you do not torture the animal. It's a quick kill. It's supposed to be humane and done as soon as, as quick as possible. All right, go ahead.
My question goes back to your bringing heaven down here. So it's
Okay.
off the subject of.
No, that's okay. That may bring us back, actually,
And,
to where we should be in the beginning.
well, no, this isn't to stump. So if you don't have the answer to this,
Okay.
I can give you my number. We can.
Absolutely.
So he's bringing everything back to the garden.
Yes.
So let's go back to Genesis chapter 1 when Adam was in the garden and Adam slept and his wife Eve was formed from his rib.
Okay.
The two were one flesh.
Yes.
Now the Pharisees had a question about marriage and the resurrection. It says in heaven, now we got back to heaven, we won't be necessarily going to heaven. In heaven there's no marriage or given in marriage, but we'll be like the angels of God.
Mhm.
And then so, is it plausible that if we are to assume that we're going back to a Garden of Eden state, will there be a mate, seeing that we're going back to the beginning and a reestablished garden?
So my short answer to that is, I believe yes, but I'll have to show you why I think that. So we'll have to talk, that's another
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
Don't just make that a private conversation.
that's gotta be a
I'm
Yeah,
curious.
right.
I'm curious the answer to.
So,
Will my wife now be the wife I will have for all time in the new resurrection? I mean, we can talk later.
yeah, we'll talk later. I think that
There's
text,
just a can
I
of
think
worms.
the text your text you're quoting about, neither the angels marry or give in marriage, refers to something specific, and I want to get to that, and we'll talk about that. So let's hold out, but go ahead.
Isn't there a reference in the apostolic scriptures that continues the sacrifice?
I would say this, you have, I will say, so let's bring this point to the issue of the Nazarite vow. So listen to the point here. Let's look at the timing. The Apostle Paul, after the death of Yeshua, before the temple is destroyed, he goes in Acts 21 and he offers the mega sacrifice of the Nazarite vow for 4 other people who entered that vow.
Total of 5.
And himself. And he doesn't say,
Yep.
oh, sorry.
No, you're good. The battery died.
Okay.
You're good.
He doesn't say, well, Jesus Christ has come so we can just drop kick the sacrifices and the temple. He knows that it's a purification offering. It's not a sin. No sin has been committed. You enter a Nazarite vow. So he says, I will go and I will pay for these other 4 people and myself, and we will offer the sacrifice. And he gives notification to the priesthood that they're coming for this. So there's not a problem post-Yeshua, pre-destruction of the temple. So for about, let's say round numbers, Yeshua dies in 35. Temple's not destroyed till 70. So for 35 years, thereabouts, Jewish Christ believers, at least Jewish Christ believers for sure, we're offering, and we have this in the book of Acts, we're offering sacrifices in the temple after the death of Yeshua. Nobody sent out a memo after the death of Jesus and said, please stop going to the temple and offering sacrifices. That wasn't in anybody's thinking. Nobody said, well, we got to stop doing this because Jesus died. No, they understood that his death was significantly different and superior in so many ways. But they also understood the picture and the metaphor. And they didn't find a problem with continuing the picture or continuing the metaphor. So I've often described it like this. If you have your, for the purpose of the metaphor, I have my wife standing right here. That's my wife. That is my wife. I have a picture, and I say, here's a picture. Well, that's my wife too. But not really. It's a picture, it's a great representation, and you can get a good idea of what she looks like, and it's a picture. Nothing wrong with the picture. It's a snapshot in time. But the real person I have to relate to, that's over here, and that's real. So the death of Yeshua is the real, the one we relate to ultimately. And what does it say about him, by the way? Listen to this description. This goes back to that Genesis 1 thing. He says he was slain before the foundations of the earth. So in the mind of God, he had already predetermined, knowing that he's going to create humanity, he gives humanity free choice, or the ability to make choices. That when they are given choice, how did he know this? Well, because he's already given it to the angelic beings. And they rebel. I give it to the angelic beings. They say, hey, you guys, I want you to worship around my throne. And I want you to worship me. And what does he say? Well, they go, well, not so much. They rebel. So what does he do? He casts them down to the earth. Then he comes down here and he says, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to create another race of people that will overtake them, ultimately drive them out, and will rule and reign for me on this earth. They'll be my image bearers. They will be the ones who, and what do these ones do? They say, oh no, we will control things. We will be the ones who control this earth. And now this is what the Apostle Paul can say, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against spiritual wickedness in high places. There's the battle going on. And now the issue is, who will rule?
Genesis 6.
This is Genesis 6, the Nephilim. And this is why I think this goes back to the angels marrying and giving marriage. We'll talk about that. Okay. So I think that this is what do they do? They come down here, they create hybrids, we get giants, and then we have to drive them out. And this is the whole big picture, what's going on. And this is why by the time that Yeshua comes, here's how we know. When Yeshua is on this earth, what happens? All hell breaks loose, and all of a sudden, demonic forces are coming out of the woodwork. And he excises them. He says, you out, you out. He's excising all over the place. Okay? Because he's coming back to take this world back for his kingdom. And he says, I'm leaving you here to do this for me, to do this work for me. And what does he say? Now, nobody brought this up earlier, but he says 3 times that we, the ecclesia, are the temple of God. Because we have the Spirit of God residing in us. He's using that as the collective. Not you individually are the temple, but we collectively are the temple. Okay? Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make a point, so bear with me.
Okay.
You mentioned Kaparim.
Cherubim.
No. Kapur.
Oh, the Kipporet, on the ark, in the tabernacle. Yes.
Right. It says mercy seat.
Yeah.
It's really the wrong image.
I agree.
Because the word is kaparet.
Yeah, Kipporet, yes.
And what's kapur?
Cover.
Atonement.
Atonement. Yeah.
Yom Kippurim.
Day of Atonements.
Day of Atonement.
Atonements.
This is an atonement cover of the ark.
Yeah. Well, we should start saying that. It's not Yom Kippur, it's Yom HaKippurim.
Yeah.
Day of Atonements. Plural. Yom HaKippurim, not Yom Kippur. The text. What is mercy? There is mercy in that God forgives us, absolutely. But the seed itself is not, quote, the mercy seat. That's the English translation. But all right, a lot of stuff here. Stay with me on this because we're going to go through a lot of things here, and I want to tie some things back into all this. Because now we're going to get to chapter 32, golden calf. We're going to have this interruption with the golden calf, and fascinating stuff going on there. We're going to have this interruption right in the middle of the tabernacle, and God telling them what to do. By the way, notice how the tabernacle the instructions are weird in this regard. Notice how we start off and we work from the inside out. You would think that you would start with the outside, and then you build the outside of something first, normally, and then you do the inside. That's how normally people do things. It's interesting, we're told about everything on the inside first, working to the outside.
That's not normal.
And I know. And then when we get to chapter 35, we're going to go from the outside in. All right.